visited Careforcows. So this presentation has been made not by me. I don't take credit for this presentation. I'm not involved in really creating this presentation. I just got it from a couple of devotees who had posted this online. So all the credit goes to those wonderful devotees. But I figured, since this is a dedication to KURMA, RUPA, PRABHU, yes, Prabhu, the one who stays in Braja. He did. Amazing person. I wish I had a chance to meet him. But that's why I would like to at least dedicate this to him, because he's worked tirelessly for the protection of the cows. And I'm going to show you this presentation, why the cows need to be protected. Cows and bulls, both of them together, the bovine forms. So the global importance of cow protection. Why should men kill cows? Srila Prabhupada writes, why should man not be satisfied with grains, fruits and milk, which combined together can produce hundreds and thousands of palatable dishes? Why are there slaughterhouses all over the world to kill innocent animals? In Sanskrit, the word Gaushala literally means cow protection, or the place where the cows are sheltered. The other Sanskrit names for the cow are Gau Mata. How many mothers do we have? 7. Can you name those 7 mothers? The wife of the king, the nurse, the wife of the Brahmin, and Gaumata. And today we are going to talk about our 7th cow, who is the 7th mother, who is Gaumata. Yes, we can milk the Vedas. Well, Vedas are a mother because they provide us direction and knowledge. So essentially, everything that we see in the nature is a guru. There are 24 gurus, but we won't go into that right now in the nature. So Gaushala literally means cow protection, and other Sanskrit names for the cow are Gaumata or Kamadhenu. Kamadhenu means wish fulfilling, or Agnya, which means never to be killed. That's one of the names of the cow. The cow is of tremendous importance, and we know, and as Prabhu said, the cow is giving us all the food. We simply can survive completely on only one ingredient from the cow, and that is milk. There are several people in India who have been living for the past 30 years simply drinking milk all their lives. They have not taken grains, they have not eaten vegetables. All they do is drink milk. So that tells you that milk is a complete food in itself. It has every nutrient that you need. But the milk has to be pure. It has to come from cows who are not traumatized and who are not exploited in any way. And eating, yes, very true, and eating natural grass which is not treated with fertilizers or pesticides. So that cow is a happy cow, and that cow gives abundant milk for our pleasure, rather not for our pleasure, for Krishna's pleasure. So bulls are very important. Bulls are meant to be trained and employed for what purpose? For tilling the land. You cannot keep a bull and simply feed it and say, I'm just going to enjoy looking at the bull. The bull has to be utilized for labor, and that labor includes plowing the land, tilling the land, transporting different things, ox cart rides, as well as powering machinery through a draught unit. So one may feel that I should not sit on an ox cart which is moved by a bull because I'm too heavy for the bull, but that's not true. The bulls are very strong animals, and if we don't utilize them for these purposes, then that means they're not being utilized properly. One has to love the bulls, but they have to be utilized based on what I've written here, what the Prabhus have written here in this presentation. This is the crux of a healthy cow protection plan. If bulls are put to meaningful employment, then milk production will be viable and economic. Otherwise, it is extremely uneconomical and unhealthy to mistreat the bulls and the cows both. In the booklet, an alarm call Akhil Bharat Krishi and Go Seva Sangh, the authors identify 4 major problems which have crippled the world today, the farming world today. What are the 4 major problems? Number 1, the use of chemical fertilizers. Number 2, the use of pesticides. 3, the use of hybrid seeds, moving away from indigenous seeds. And number 4, the use of mechanical farming. 95% of the world is utilizing these 4 principles. And unfortunately, who is suffering? The human beings. There are so many diseases that have never been heard of, and that's all coming from the use of pesticides. And we know what pesticides do in our body. They mimic hormones. And so now you're getting excess hormones, or they block the action of natural hormones in the body. Either way, they are messing up with our system. And that's very unfortunate. The expense of feeding the bulls will be a deficit to the farmer unless the farmer realizes their potential and uses them for managing the fields. Otherwise, there is great economic disaster, as has been seen in a wide variety of lands today. It is stated that India's 84 million animals supply equivalent of 30 kilowatt of energy. These work animals save 6 million tons of petroleum a year. So animals can be utilized for production of biogas. And biogas is completely natural, non-contaminating and non-polluting. And that saves the country petroleum. And petroleum is very contaminating. After the petroleum is extracted, the naphtha fractions, the left behind, they are very contaminating for the earth. So success in today's economic climate calls for mass production, which relies on polluting factors such as fertilizers as well as pesticides. And hence, the local farmer is driven out of his sustenance. And that's happening today in the corporate world. All these big corporate biotech industries are taking over the entire land. What to speak of the land? Even the corporate world is completely controlling our water. They are sapping Mother Earth of the last drop of water which is left in the planet. They're reeking the mother of the last drop of water, and they're selling the water. 50 years ago, if you told somebody that I have to buy water, nobody would have believed you. What to speak of 50 years ago? Even in my generation, when I was a child, no one ever bought water. No one thought of paying cash to buy water. And now, there's hundreds of different kinds of water. Water with different colors, water with different minerals. We don't need all that. We absolutely don't need all that. What we need is simply natural water. Unfortunately, natural water is all gone. Why? Because the earth has been contaminated by us, by the use of pesticides and fertilizers. So naturally, it's all going in the water also. So it's become a big business. Agriculture became agribusiness when corporate companies took control of food production. And this led to the demise of small farms, unfortunately. And farmers are often compelled to strikes, and they'll be forced to work in factories or become unemployed. So do you see how one element is leading to a chain reaction? One thing leads to another, that leads to another, and eventually it's having a major disaster impact on the economy. An industrialized country need to reintroduce oxen power to feed the world. And right now, there are millions of young bulls that could be trained to produce grain. But where are these millions of young bulls going? What's happening to these millions of young bulls? They are being killed, they are being slaughtered. They are totally being slaughtered, unfortunately. So the danger is that as increasing oil or petroleum prices force up the price of grains, cows and bulls are the first target of massive slaughter, and that is going on today. I don't need to tell you, this is going on extensively. So we're going to move on to cows here, and you can see these are some of the examples of highly industrialized ways of farming, which is really not sustainable. It's absolutely not sustainable, even from an economic point of view. We can see what's going on in the world today. People are striking. There is poverty, people are not getting any food, and there is a revolution going on everywhere. So essentially this is coming because of industrialized farms, and that's tied to the fact that the cows are not being treated properly. Once the cows are not being treated properly, there is bound to be damage to the environment, and we are bound to suffer. So how do we save our soil? We save our soil by not utilizing fertilizers and synthetic pesticides. So what do we do to make our soil rich? We can use cow manure, or what we call gobar, the natural excrement of the cow. In fact, the natural excrement of the cow is so good that you can eat it. Have any of you eaten cow dung patties? You can eat them. I have them at home if you would like to try some. When I went to Vrindavan, I bought cow urine and cow dung patties, and the cow dung patties can be eaten. In fact, at the end of Kartik, the 5 days of Bhishma Vrat, you're supposed to eat these 5 things: cow milk, cow yogurt, cow dung, cow urine, and ghee, I believe. That's a very severe fast. Sorry, Prabhu? They're all medicines. Yes, they are completely medicinal. Yes, Prabhu. You can drink the cow urine, or if that is a bit difficult, you can take the cow urine, a few drops, put it into the water and drink it. I did. It's so dilute because I dilute it in a cup of water. Yeah, I just dilute it. I have a bottle of urine, and I did it in Kartik. I don't do it every day. I did it in the month of Kartik because it's very auspicious. So I haven't eaten the patty yet. Maybe one day I will, or maybe I'll dissolve it in water and I'll drink the water. It's medicinal. It's completely medicinal. And in fact, we use the cow dung to put on a floor and a walls because they keep the flies away, and they are antimicrobial. There you go. Yes, cow dung is very, very... And cow dung can also be used as a face mask. If anyone is interested in cosmetics, you can use the cow dung as a face mask, and it will make your skin look 20 years younger. Oh, wonderful. That's wonderful. That's very good to know. So yes, cow dung is all in all a wonderful principle. Yes, Prabhu. That's wonderful. Pasteurization, I'll talk about homogenization and pasteurization in a minute. That's probably the reason, yes. So, should we drink milk at all? Should we all practice veganism? That is something that it's a personal decision, and you have to judge for yourself. The milk is bad and contaminated because the cows are being mistreated. If you see the cow who is given lot of love and lot of care and allowed to graze in the green pastures, that cow is a happy cow and will give lots of milk. And have some of you seen the actual milk that comes out of the cow before it gets bottled into a bottle? How does it look? It looks yellow. It has half an inch thick cream, and it's completely yellow. It's the color of these walls, or maybe deeper. That's the amount of fat which is there in cow milk. So what happens when we buy a gallon of milk? It looks like chalk powder, right? When you pour it, and it has a lot of vitamins. So essentially what happened to that milk? It got homogenized and it got pasteurized. Does everyone know the difference between pasteurization and boiling? What is the difference between pasteurization and boiling? True. So pasteurization, as you said very correctly, is rapidly bringing the milk to a high temperature but not boiling temperature, holding it for a few seconds and rapidly chilling it. So it does not kill all the bacteria, but it's pasteurized. And versus boiling is making it reach a temperature of 100 degrees and completely boiling it till it froths. So when we buy raw milk, we boil it, we don't pasteurize it before drinking it. So what's homogenization? Yes? Very true. Yes. In fact, when we buy a gallon of milk and we see it's homogenized and the milk doesn't have any cream on top, we feel this milk is good for us, there's no fat. Actually, it's the other way around. The fat has been globularized. It's broken down into very small globules which are not visible to the eye, and those globules, the fat is still there. The problem is it's not floating on top. It's mixed in with the milk. So homogenized milk is actually very nasty for us. Because the fat, we're still imbibing the fat in the form of globules. And that fat can clog our coronary arteries. So it is better to buy a full fat milk which is non-homogenized, boil it, and you'll find a lot of cream on the top, which is essentially the fat. And remove the fat, cream, turn it into butter, and then whatever's left behind the milk is defatted milk. That milk is much more healthy than homogenized milk. So I did my research the past 2 weeks and I found out that homogenization is really sort of a nasty process. Yes, Prabhu. I'm not qualified to answer which milk is right or wrong, because vitamin D can be extracted from animal organs like fish. So, Prabhu, I'll give you a simple advice. Today, everything is contaminated. It is virtually impossible to find anything which is not contaminated. You could buy raw milk, yes, Sprouts or Whole Foods, you could buy raw milk. So once you boil it, just make sure once you bring it, make sure you boil it. So there is milk available, but it tends to be on the more expensive side. So economically, it may not be feasible for everyone to drink that milk, particularly if someone is a milk lover and you like to eat your butter and your yogurt and your cream cheese every day. Yes. Okay, I've heard two sides of that story. Because when the milk is raw, it does have bacteria, and if the cow has mastitis, udder infection, the pathogenic bacteria get into the milk. So it is very critical, particularly feeding the young infants, very important to boil the milk because it has bacteria in it. Now you can argue and say it has good bacteria. Yes, it has good probiotic bacteria, but if the cow has an udder infection, it is the bacteria going to be transferred to the milk. So raw milk is safer when it's boiled. It's still raw, but it's boiled. At least it doesn't have any residues of pesticides or fertilizers in it, unlike commercialized milk. So in answer to your question, I don't think I'm qualified to answer whether 2% is good or homogenized is good. I've given you the facts. I think you have to judge for yourself. Well, when you get this commercialized milk, which is pasteurized and homogenized, you don't need to boil it because it's already pasteurized. But let me tell you something. If you leave that milk for 10 days, you buy that gallon of milk, the plastic bottle, right? We all do, right? If you leave that milk and you don't pour that milk for about a week from that gallon, you see a layer which is formed at the border of the milk. And then after 10 days, what happens to that milk when you open that lid? It has a very strange and nasty smell because it's getting putrefied. Raw milk which is boiled will never putrefy. It will become a bit acidic, but it will not decompose. Commercial milk will always decompose, and once that decomposition happens, that milk becomes toxic. So keep a milk and don't drink it. Do a little experiment. If the expiry date is like July 14th, open that lid on July 13th and see how it smells. It smells actually nasty. Yes, Prabhu. It's the best. Unfortunately, the cows are not being fed grass. And you know, the big problem is there's no water to produce grass. So where are the cows going to eat the grass? So what are these cows being fed? The worst state of affairs. Yesterday, you know, I keep getting these vegan flyers at my university, and it's very sad what goes in our soil. And in fact, I don't mean to offend any vegans here or people who are watching online. If anyone is a vegan, my intent is not to offend any vegans here. But there was an argument on cow protection, one of the cow protection websites, that even the vegans who are eating tofu and soy products and keeping away from dairy, little do they realize that the soya beans are coming from the soil which is fertilized by chicken feed. So how is chicken feed made? I saw a picture and it was not beautiful. There's a big grinding machine as big as this, and the chicks, when they're born, they're alive. They are only 1 or 2 weeks old. They're dropped in the grinding machine. And the picture was very graphic actually, because you can see this very beautiful chick, just about 1 or 2 weeks old, and it's trying to flutter its wings, and there's a whole assembly line, and they drop the chicks, millions, and they grind the chicks, and that's mixed to become fertilizers with pellets, and that goes in the soil, which is used for growing the soya beans from which tofu comes. So if someone says, I'm a vegan, I don't eat any animal product, it's unfortunate. Everything is contaminated. Yes. To a certain extent, not eating animal product is fine. We're saving all the animals. But according to our Vedic scriptures, milk is the best food for humans. Provided we get good milk, yes, not the contaminated version. The milk is so important. Srila Prabhupada writes in the